Today on Community Watch, I'm talking with Milton Slack, former city commissioner, about the history of baseball in this area. You won't believe the stories. Stay tuned. Community Watch starts now. Welcome to Community Watch. I am so happy today to have with me special guest Milton Slack, former city commissioner, and we were talking about that before the show, but don't want to talk about that at all today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here, and we're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart.
and a lot more pleasurable than local politics, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And that is baseball.
Baseball. America's pastime when I was growing up.
Well, it still is for some of us. I've never shifted away to anything else. But a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to speak with you at the DeSoto Theater about the local history of the Negro Leagues. And I learned so much about the baseball that existed over the past however many years. Baseball is not that old a sport, really, historically. I guess in the news fairly recently, with the changes in how the records from those Negro League players were counted or considered, they've decided now to include them with all the Major League Baseball players' records, and they compare quite favorably.
Yes.
So that's brought up, I guess, a lot of conversations about those leagues, and I guess many people. I know you and several others were on this show with Greg Shropshire and myself,
Yes,
talking about it. It's been a few years ago, but the time seems right to talk about it again.
Yes.
So, tell me, I guess to start with, about how baseball existed locally. And I know you were involved with a Lindale team, but it existed for some years before you were
Yeah.
old enough to play. So tell us a little bit about that Lindale team.
Okay, we were called the Lindale Dragons. And at the time, in the 50s, 40s, the Industrial League was the thing around here. And they had a black section and a white section. And each mill or industrial plant around had a team. And most of them fielded a black team and a white team. And I was fortunate enough to play with the Lindale Dragons. In fact, I started when I was about 17 years old. I really had to play under an older player's name. So, but I snuck out and played with them.
Well, that would have been when in
It was about the 1958, 59, 60, in that era.
when you were playing.
Yes.
And do you know how long that team had existed before you started playing?
It was, I know that during 1950. It was
So in the years after the end of World War II.
at the end of World War II.
And an industrial league. So the different industries in town had their own
Had their own
teams.
team, yes.
And did they each have a black team and a white team?
Most of them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, most of them. I think Celanese had one. Lindale, And several of the other
Yeah.
plants around there.
And those games, the white teams would only play the white team,
Right.
and the black teams would only play the black.
Right.
So, what about in the stands, in the bleachers?
Well, you had some people who came to see us play because we played a pretty good brand of baseball, and so it was a few who came to see us play.
So that experience, because there may be something similar to it now, but I'm not aware of it. Of industries and businesses having that kind of, I guess, bonding sport or game to keep the employees kind of unified, even though segregated.
Yeah.
How did it feel to be a player at the time on those teams?
Well, actually, it was normal.
Yeah.
Okay. And like you say, two things I always think would bring people together: that's singing and sports.
Yeah.
And both of those you can ad-lib. And so if it's played on the same size field with the same rules, you can get along.
Yeah. So you played several years.
Yeah.
And the industrial leagues continued after you, or when did that end?
In the 70s, a game called softball came along, slow pitch, and a lot of the players started to play slow pitch rather than baseball. And the leagues kind of went away. And slow pitch softball was like a family affair during the week, and so baseball kind of gradually faded out.
Now, beyond the local teams that were part of this industrial league, Rome had some players in the Negro leagues, and as part of this event at the DeSoto, we watched a documentary called The League, which has a lot of the history of the Negro leagues. And so I learned, you probably knew all of that already, but I learned a lot watching that documentary about how many leagues there were and how they formed and how long they lasted. There was they existed in different ways for quite a long time.
I think they officially say that Negro leagues stopped playing around 1960, but there were still some fragments. As I talked about at the little theater, there were a lot of barnstorming teams still around who were affiliates of those old Negro League teams.
And those were teams that would play local players. In fact, your team played
in the Josh Gibson League, which was named after a famous, they called him the Black Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
He was a catcher, and he died in, I think, 1947, before, I think a couple of months before Jackie Robinson actually integrated the league.
Yeah.
But they said he could hit some prodigious home runs.
Yeah.
And
in fact, he is one of the figures whose statistics measure up so well when considered in the same category.
And they got him listed maybe 750 or more than that, but they didn't really keep good accurate records at that time. So, but they got a number that they put him up close to Babe Ruth.
Yeah. So your team played a visiting barnstorming team, I guess you would call it.
Yes.
And was it the Clowns? Was
The
it the Clowns?
Indianapolis Clowns, and that's the team that Hank Aaron played on when he left the Negro League. No, that was the Negro League. Hank Aaron played with
He played with it
Indianapolis Clowns
before he began his career.
right with Boston Braves with not
So
Boston,
so I guess he kind of
Milwaukee Braves.
the Milwaukee Braves.
Milwaukee.
It was Milwaukee and then Atlanta.
Yeah.
So tell me about the experience of playing against the Indianapolis Clowns.
Boy, we would always get up for that game
Yeah.
because we said we're playing the professionals. Because they had a lot of players who would be playing AA, AAA ball, and they would get expecting call-ups to the major league, and so they were out to beat everybody they could to get attention, and we were out to try to beat them to get attention, and so it was a fun game. They usually came through sometime twice a year, at least once a year. And the final year, too, the manager of the Clowns was a guy from Rome. We call him Bully Rag. So we had a kind of link to make sure we played them once or twice a year. And we would kind of fill the stadium up when they came to town.
And if I'm remembering correctly, you talked about how traditionally the Indianapolis Clowns would get so far ahead of a team, of a local team they were playing, that they would start clowning around. And that's kind of how they got that name, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of liken them to the Harlem Globetrotters in baseball, basketball. And they had a midget that played on the team. And one year they had a lady. And they had a little infield routine that they did that was without a baseball, and they pantomized, everything, and they go in slow motion, and they turn and kiss the ball, and then flip it, and that was fun. But they would clown when they got a chance. They had bats with explosives in them, and the midget, his bat was taller than he was.
So they were big on entertainment. But apparently they didn't relax enough to clown when they played your team.
We got them one time.
Well, let's only talk about that one time. Yeah.
Yes, we played at Legion Field over behind the levee here. And they came to town, and the crowd was there expecting us to get beat run off the field.
Right.
But we had some pretty good athletes and pretty good players, and we beat them that day 1-0. And they only got the clown after the game.
Wow. That's pretty amazing to keep them scoreless.
Scoreless, yeah. And for 9, after we scored one run, and they couldn't come back on us,
And now, was that the game where one of our area pitchers struck out Hank Aaron?
No.
That was another opportunity.
That was Cole. Alfred Cole played in that game, and that was against. We were playing one of the teams for like the Black Barons. It was in one of those games.
Well, we're coming up on our first break.
Okay.
But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the connections between Rome and some of these teams, because we had quite a few players here, and there's quite a history.
Yes, quite a bit.
Yeah. All right, so stay with us. We'll be talking about baseball more with Milton Slack right after this. Ooh.
Most affordable bachelor's degree in Northwest Georgia is right here at Georgia Highlands College. high quality, and career focused. That's what you can expect at GHC. Apply today at highlands.edu.
Welcome back to Community Watch. I'm having a conversation with Milton Slack about baseball, about the Negro Leagues beyond Rome, and also the connections within Rome. Some of you, and I know some of you may be calling in wondering why we have plastic cups today, but it's hot outside. I don't know if it is where you are, but it is hot outside here, and so our generous station personnel provided us with ice water, which we're grateful for. So thank you. So, Mr. Slack, you were talking about a particular honor that connected to there's a museum in Birmingham,
Yes.
is that right? So tell me about that.
Okay, there was a move back in the 2001, maybe. A young man named Cameron, if I look at my notes.
Oh,
here.
that's
Okay, named Cam Perrin, Perron. He was 16 years old, and he was a baseball card collector. And somehow he got a hold of some of the Negro League baseball players' cards. So he started to look into it, and somebody saw him the way he was looking, and they started a fund for him to research. And he was researching players who might have been eligible for a pension.
so it was serious.
Serious,
research.
very
Yeah.
serious. And I think he got one or two players from some.
Well, that's impressive.
And so through Roger Brown, who was the representative for the Southern Negro League league in Birmingham, he played for the Birmingham Black Barons. He came and offered us an opportunity to be inducted or go into that Birmingham museum. And each player who showed up signed a autographed 2 baseballs, and they were talking about a commemorative stamp, and we signed 2 of those just in case they got those in things. So if you go to Birmingham, there's a Negro League baseball museum there. We might be in there somewhere. In fact, I know we're in there. I got our baseball in there. So.
Well, that's just spectacular. I need to make a special trip to that museum.
It's beautiful.
Because Birmingham has several players that come to mind. So it's right that they should have a museum. But I'm impressed with what you have shared with me too about local connections. Not only the industrial league that you were part of, but teams well beyond Rome. We had some connections too.
The last time we discussed baseball here, Edward Haynes was here.
Right.
And he passed away last year. Yeah. But Edward was here, and Edward actually pitched with the Indianapolis Clowns, even though it was during the barnstorming. But he pitched with them, and he was invited to the big celebration reunion in Atlanta. He was invited, and they all went down and sat around the infield there. And he also wrote a book. He has a book that he had published, and he was a pretty good pitcher. he pitched with his head.
Haynes, you're talking about?
Yeah, Edward Haynes.
And he pitched with the Clowns during their barnstorming.
Yes.
So
yes.
Now was he with them on the team that played your team?
Yeah. No. He left my team and went with them.
Oh, I see.
Okay. They were shopping for talent.
Right.
They took him with them.
Right.
But Now, talking about the other players, I got an article here from the Rome News, if you don't mind.
Now, this is an impressive collection of history that you have. I'm assuming that the Rome History Center has a lot of the same material, but I don't know. You might want to
take it and let them look at it.
Yes, they might want to make copies of some things because I know they would be interested in a lot of this if they don't have it. But you have an article that honors two local residents who were team players.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can I read some of it?
Yeah, of course.
Again, it's about Nathaniel McClintock and Ernest Long. Now, most American readers never saw a professional baseball game. But the brand of ball that was played in the Negro Leagues was as good as the Major League. In fact, they in my reading, they used to kind of barnstorm and play, but then they stopped it because there would have been a black market. This one of these teams had beaten one of the Major League teams.
Right.
So they didn't do it. Got Nate McClintock. Let's see, he played with the Chattanooga Choo-Choo. They had a black Choo-Choos and Chattanooga Choo-Choo. And they had the Atlanta Black Crackers and the Atlanta Crackers. And McClintock and Long were members of the old Negro Baseball League that was going strong when Jackie Robinson crossed the color line to become Major League Baseball's first black player after he joined the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. McClintock and Long never dressed with a Major League team, but they both left the game by 1949. And they were remembered on June the 5th in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in a special ceremony called the Living Legends of Baseball, a tribute to the best players of the Negro Baseball League of the middle century. Listed also on that roster that day was Willie Mays, Ernie Banks, Roy Campanella, Don Newcomb, and Orestes Minnie Minoso. You ever heard him?
No.
But he was great. He played for the Chicago White Sox, I believe. Yeah. Now McClintock and Long came along to professional baseball when the Negro Leagues were enjoying their best years. And at that time, the Negro League teams were being eaten up by the white Major League team. And I think at that time, nobody knew it. There was a roster limit. You would only have two blacks on the players. It was unwritten.
On the Major League teams, two black players only.
Yeah,
that was unofficial.
Unofficial.
Yeah.
Now, there's a quote from McClintock. He said, "I played baseball in the service. I was in the Army at Iwo Jima, and we won the Island Championship. In 1945, Ernest and I were scouted by Sam Morris, who was the guy who was known for scouting black players and bringing them to the Major League. So he was scouted by Sam Morris, and McClintock was about 6'1", 165 pounds. He played center field. And Long was 6'4". He played first base and he was a pitcher. And McClintock was a speedy base runner, had a good arm. And Ernest Long was a breaking ball specialist at that time. Now, there was a stadium in Chattanooga called, I think it's still there. It's the Ingalls Stadium in Chattanooga. And the Choo-Choo still play there, I think. The minor league team still plays there. And we played in a stadium where the white major league teams played, and those teams were when they were out of town. McClintock said, I can remember the first time I took the field in Yankee Stadium against the old New York Cubans, which was another Negro league. There were so many different teams in that league. And he said he was a center fielder, but he got it all and walking around, and by the time he looked up, he was in left field.
Thank goodness.
And there was more than 25,000 fans there, so that was a...
Now, you mentioned a tournament in Iwo Jima?
Nathan McClintock played for the Army team. He was on Iwo Jima.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah. And now, Long pitched until he got hurt. Okay. Long remembers pitching against a guy named Luke Easter. You ever heard of him?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Luke Easter, he pitched against him. Larry Doby.
Of course.
And let's see. And now this is from McClintock. It says Jackie Robinson was not the best black baseball player. He had the best temperament.
Right. So that was their motivation.
That was their motivation. Yeah. Somebody who could withstand all that was going to be hurled at him.
And there was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot, yeah. Until Pee Wee Reese came out and said, hey, you guys got to stop this. This guy's my teammate, and I'm going to take up for him.
Yeah. Well, there's so much history here. I know that one of the motives of the recent event where you were one of the panelists was former player C.J. Stewart's lead organization is he's got a number of intentions in what he's doing, but one of the things that he's doing is promoting baseball, especially with young minority players, because for some number of years baseball has not been as popular. So he's working to try and bring that back. But I don't know. I'm beginning to see, not a ton of players, but more players than maybe there were.
Yeah, the cost of it nowadays, and you have more your traveling team. They play year round,
right?
And it's very expensive because my nephew Miles Twyman was traveling not too long ago with Darlington. He plays at Darlington, goes to school at Darlington, but he's on a traveling team. And they be gone for a week at a time,
right.
and some kids their parents can't afford that.
Right, I understand that. But hopefully there's a good future, because the past was so great, and rich is the right word. And we're running out of time here, but I wanted, to take a minute to thank you for sharing this, because so much of this, people just don't know anymore. They're not aware that this was happening here.
Yeah, I had a lot more, but got lost in the flood.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. But, you've got quite a bit. You've got quite a bit.
And I want people to know the history, that we do have some players from Rome who actually participated in the Negro Leagues, and could possibly, today's time, might have been able to play Major League Baseball.
I wouldn't surprise me at all. Yep. Well, we are out of time, but it's great talking to you, and I hope you'll come back again.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you, Milton Slack, and thank all of you for being with us this week on Community Watch. We'll see you next time.